Welcome to Catholic Life as we spotlight ordinary people with extraordinary faith. I am Dina Dow, your host, and with me again this week is Father John Carville, who is the past Vicar General of our diocese and many other hats that he wore. Also, he's retired, but I don't think you're not doing anything because you're retired. So thanks for being back with us. Father Carville is going to continue sharing his journey and his experiences as a young seminarian when the Vatican II Council opened up in 1962. So in our last show, kind of went through your history of your calling and how you got to Rome. So now describing the moment where the doors were basically open. Archbishop Rummel is number one seat behind the cardinals. Bishop Tracy's a little further in the back because it's in order of,
well, he was, I guess, way in the back.
Hierarchy.
Because he was a new bishop.
Yeah. So you saw this unfold. They came in,
they
took their seats, and this was the opening day.
Well, I actually, did see it. Every seminarian in Rome tried to get into St. Peter's that day.
Yeah.
But the Swiss Guard was stationed at all the entrances.
Right.
And they were throwing seminarians out. The seminarians would go up to the bishops who were processing in and say, "Could I carry your mitre?"
Oh, yeah.
The bishop would give them his mitre. But when they got to the doors, the Swiss Guard would pull them out of line and say,
"You're not
by invitation only," because they had invited diplomats from all over the world and people like that.
Yeah.
And it was full, but I got in.
Oh, wait, I got to hear this.
Well, I didn't know. I saw what was happening. Clarence Wegesbeck, Baton Rouge seminarian, I saw him try to get in, and whoop, he was thrown out. And I said, "What can I do?" Thought came to me, and I went to the doors that the bishops had come out of, and sure enough, no one. While they were processing, they came down about halfway down the columns. Then they came across
out into the open square,
the square, and then did a hard right. And straight through the central doors of St. Peter's.
Yeah.
And so when the last bishop came out, they were concentrating on that. And I had been up those stairs you could go into the offices there if you had, I forget what occasion I went there for, but I did. So I knew my way around. And if you knew one of the Secret Service people, they actually ran the security, if you will.
Right.
And I had met one because if we had visitors coming over to Rome, they would give you a private tour if, of course, you tipped them well.
Yes.
And so there was one we used to use named Carlo Fiori, Charlie Flowers.
Yeah.
That's what it
American
translates. And so I ran up the stairs, and sure enough, at the main desk, there he was.
Carlo.
And I went up, I said, "Oh, piacere, please." Is there any way you can get me in? And he thought a minute, he shook his head. He turned around and he picked up the programs for the ceremony.
Right.
And he took a whole bunch and he put them in my hands.
Yeah.
And then he picked up a bunch. And then we started going through, and I could never do it again. Because he went through doors I didn't know existed in that building. And we ended up at the bottom, if you look at the main altar of
Right.
St. Peter's,
Mm-hmm.
there are two little doors
Mm-hmm.
on either side.
Yeah.
And we came out one of those doors, and he took the diplomats and people who
Yeah.
were in the nearest bleachers,
Yes.
right on the side of the main altar.
Mm-hmm.
And then he pointed to his right,
Uh-huh.
and there was an equal bleacher
Right.
there.
Yeah.
And so I just went over there and I started
Handing out
handing
programs.
out programs. And when I got through handing out programs to everybody there, there was an empty seat.
Ah,
So I just sat down.
he sat down.
And no Swiss guard,
Yes.
came around.
Wow.
And I got to
Wow.
watch
Oh, wow.
Pope John XXIII give his famous speech about the prophets of doom, and
Right.
we shouldn't be guided by negativity. And because we hadn't had a council since Vatican I, and then that one hardly began,
Right.
and he got ended. And then before that, it was Trent, 400 years. And so, how important this was, that we had to have an opening to our times, and that was going to be the theme, and it was a good experience.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
That's an amazing story. So you found your way in to the Vatican as the cardinals and the bishops were coming in.
After they got out.
After they got out, right?
Yeah.
And then you found your friend, the Secret Service, who handed you programs, and you were basically a greeter for that,
Well,
handing out
I wasn't.
programs.
I was just
handing
a
out
flunky.
programs. A flunky.
Who handed out programs.
I don't know if I call that flunky or just like providential. And it's interesting you say that. Was that the aggiornamento speech where you said we're opening
It was
up
the
the doors?
aggiornamento speech,
That's
up
like-
to date.
I can't even imagine.
Up to date.
So I'm guessing that you have been back to Rome and have seen Pope St. John the 23rd laying in state, incorrupt, in the Vatican. What is that like for you? Like the kind of the collision of
Well, I
seeing
was
him
at
at one of
his
his greatest
funeral
moments.
too.
That's right, because he passed away.
He
a few
passed
years
away
ago.
within a year. At the summer, June, fall.
Yeah,
63. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we were at dinner. It was 6 p.m. And North American College, if you're looking at the St. Peter's and you're in the square, you just look up over the colonnades and up this very high hill.
Oh, yeah.
You can see the pine trees on the property of the North American College.
Okay.
That's where it is.
Yeah.
Via del Ginicolo, which goes up.
Yeah. And that's where you were when you found out that he had passed away. Is that correct?
Right. And we, everyone just
Went to the
jumped up from dinner and left dinner and started running toward the
Yeah.
Vatican. And the bells started tolling. And people were literally coming out of barbershops with
shaving cream.
shaving cream on
Yeah.
there and running, everyone was running.
Was there any doubt that the council would not continue? I mean, did people know that it was going to continue? Because there was a period of time where, a new pope had to be, chosen.
Chosen.
And so during that time, so the time between.
But it was June, remember?
Right. Oh, that's
and
right.
so
It was not in session.
they had enough time
Gotcha.
to elect the pope, and then he called the second session,
And came back again.
Paul
Yeah.
VI.
Wow. So how long were you in Rome? Were you there when
4
the council closed?
4 years. No,
Okay, 64.
I came home the end of the second session.
Okay. Yeah.
There were 2 more years.
After that, yeah. So I can't even, that's a whole nother conversation as far as the historical impact of that on your life as a priest. but you come back from Rome. You're ordained. Are you ordained in Rome as well too? So you come back to a brand new diocese. Your bishop is on fire and unstoppable and organizationally like gifted. So where do you go from there? Were you assigned to a parish as a parochial vicar or even a parish immediately?
I came home in July of 64. Yeah. And he very graciously gave me a month off to, I was supposed to report on August 1st. And so I went to his office, which was in the old Fidelity Bank building.
Downtown
at the time,
Baton Rouge,
downtown.
yes.
And he yelled down the hall to Monsignor Gillespie, who was his vicar general.
Yeah.
Hey, Patrick, where were we going to send Carville? And Monsignor Gillespie says, to the cathedral. He said, oh, yes. He says, well, my plan is that you're going to, we don't have anyone with a degree in canon law.
Oh.
But, so I'm going to send you back to school to get a degree in canon law, but I want you to have some experience in the parish. So you're going to go to the cathedral. Monsignor Borders is there.
Oh, yeah.
You know
Yeah,
him. So, he'll be your pastor.
Yeah.
And oddly enough, at the time, the next priest there was Bishop Ott. But he was Monsignor Ott, and he was the chancellor of the diocese at the time. So he was full time in the chancery.
Yeah.
And then Monsignor Guillot was Father Guillot at the time, but he was the vocation director.
Okay.
So he was there, and we had a lot of priests in the diocese at that time. If you can imagine, I mean, there were 4 guys, at the cathedral, and then I got there.
Yeah. Yeah.
3, Borders, Ott, Guillot. I was the 4th.
Wow. We're going to pause it there. We have about 10 seconds left in this segment. But when we come back, we're going to pick up on your experience at the cathedral with these saintly men, especially Monsignor Ott.
Yes.
And then continue that journey of how you've seen Vatican II lived out in the churches that you've served. Stay with us. We'll be right back in just a minute.
Brothers and sisters in Christ, I would like to invite you to join me on Catholic Life TV each weekday morning for Mass at 8 a.m., originating from the Catholic Life Center in Baton Rouge. Starting your day with Mass is a positive way of centering yourself spiritually and begin the day with a sense of peace, purpose, and belonging with the body of Christ. Join us each day so we can pray together for ourselves and the needs of the world. God bless.
Catholic Life TV has a morning show for you. Watch Wake Up live from Catholic Community Media every weekday morning at 7. Fresh Catholic content from local priests, church events from our area, plus authors, the daily gospel, saints of the day, and prayer. Weekday mornings at 7, grab a cup of coffee and join us for a joyful hour on Wake Up on Catholic Life TV.
Buying local products should be about freshness, and that's what we do here at River Road Coffees. We get our coffee on the shelf within about a week, and maximum, it comes off the shelf in 3 months. We don't even think our competitors get it on the shelf in 3 months.
Welcome back to Catholic Life as we spotlight ordinary people with extraordinary faith. I am Dina Dow, your host, continuing our conversation with Father John Carville. People call you Father Johnny Carville. I call you Father John Carville. Okay, so gone through your journey as seminary, you're ordained, and you are assigned to be one of the priests at the cathedral here in the Diocese of Baton Rouge.
Mm-hmm.
With Bishop Ott, Monsignor Ott back then, who eventually became our bishop. And so what happened there, and then where were you moved to subsequently?
Well, what happened was, it was a very busy time at the cathedral. Bishop Tracy and Monsignor Borders had decided to go with a trend, and Father Guillot, because he was the vocation director.
Mm-hmm.
Three of them decided that they were going to open a school for boys who had some interest in the priesthood, no commitment required at high school age.
Yeah.
And they would call it Cathedral Prep.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they had the property, they had the school. It was the old Catholic high school.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
That
Downtown.
Catholic High
Right.
had just outgrown
Right.
2 years, I think, before or something. And had moved to their present
On
location.
Hearthstone. Yes.
And so they were opening the year. I got there.
Okay.
And it was very providential because I really did not have much interest in canon law.
Oh.
And as luck would have it, Monsignor Borders, having been chaplain at LSU, both as a associate pastor to Bishop Tracy when he was chaplain at LSU.
Right.
Knew he had a master's degree in education. And so he was officially the principal of this
Cathedral Prep.
Cathedral Prep.
Gotcha.
But he had to take care of all of Bishop Tracy's business. He was sort of his right hand.
Yeah.
And then he had to run the cathedral. So he told me, well, your job's going to be to sit in the front office because this is a downtown parish. We don't have too many residential parishioners, but people are always just dropping in from hotels and whatnot down here.
Right.
And they want to see a priest, and that's you.
Hey.
It'll be a good experience for
Yeah.
you. Well, it was a wide experience.
Yeah.
But then they had another problem. Monsignor Borders had been at LSU a long time. He knew everybody there.
Yeah.
And he had recruited a very good faculty. But his main triumph, if you want, or whatever, was he hired a guy named Benny McArdle, who was a student at LSU in his day, in the choir, I think, and everything. But also the point guard on the basketball team that Bob Pettit
Oh my goodness.
played for.
Yeah.
And Benny also was a first stringer on the LSU baseball team. And there's even a little statue of him or something on a post at LSU now, with his name. He was very good.
Wow.
He could pitch and play some other positions as well on the baseball team.
Yeah.
So he needed an assistant coach.
Oh.
While he took care of the varsity. I mean, usually when we would play, there'd be a junior varsity game, there'd be a varsity game.
Right. Right.
Anyway, he wanted an assistant coach.
Mm-hmm.
Well, of the people at the cathedral, I was the only one who had played high school basketball.
Oh, no.
And that only 2 years.
Right, yeah.
And I was mainly warming a bench, but I knew something about it. I learned something 2 years. So Bordas tells Bishop Tracy, you know, we can make better use of him as a professor here.
Right.
Because also they needed someone to teach Latin.
Oh, yeah.
And
you knew that.
All our classes were in Latin.
Right.
And in Rome.
Mm-hmm.
And so, anyway, Bordas convinced Tracy that it would be better if I stayed at Cathedral Prep.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so I did.
Coached basketball and taught Latin.
Coached basketball, taught Latin and religion.
Wow.
And took care of the boarding students because we had students from out of town who stayed Monday through Friday and slept in the brothers' old home.
Right, yeah.
And so someone had to sort of guard them or whatever you want.
Yeah. Make sure
however you
they
want
were
to
studying.
put it. Yeah.
That's fascinating.
So
how long were you able to do that? And then when was your first assignment?
Well, I went, I was 4 years down. We were 4 years, I think, 3 or 4, at that location.
Mm-hmm.
And then Governor McKithen came. It was the last session. It was 64.
Mm-hmm.
Because Monsignor Bordas had gone back to the council with Bishop Tracy.
Okay,
And I was teaching, and one of the other teachers came into my class and said, Father, the governor's down the hall. And he's got a bunch of people with him.
What? Okay.
And I said, well, okay.
Yeah.
So I said, you stay here make sure they don't make too much noise.
Right.
And I went down and he said, son, where's your boss?
Oh.
Now I was 25.
Yeah, I was going to
6,
say, how old are you?
know.
Yeah, right.
And I said, well, boss, which boss? The bishop. I said, oh, well, he's in Rome for the council. And he says, well, who's boss here? And I said, Monsignor Bordas. Says, where's he? I said, he's at the council with him. He said,
right.
Can you get in touch with him? Well, in those days we knew, because I was in Rome, and to get contact our parents, the fastest way was telegraph.
Right. Yeah.
And so I said, yeah, I can send him a telegraph. And he says, well, tell them this, that I need this property. He says, now, they can sell it to me at market value, or I can declare a right of eminent domain and in 2 years pay them what I want to pay them.
Whoa, okay.
Bishop Tracy arrived 2 days later after he got the telegraph and sold the property, which is now all those,
right, the high rises.
On North Street, all those buildings, state buildings.
Yeah.
And, so we moved the prep school to the buildings that are behind the kitchen in this complex.
Yeah, the Catholic Life Center.
Right here, where we are sitting here.
Yeah.
This was all built to be Cathedral Prep.
Yeah, right.
And it had boarding facilities for the boys who were out of town during the week.
The kitchen, the classrooms.
The kitchen, and Monsignor Bergreen came as an additional
Yeah.
priest at the
Love
cathedral
him.
the
Yeah.
last year we
Uh-huh.
were down there.
Yeah.
And so the two of us moved here
Wow.
with the boys,
Mm-hmm.
those who were out of town,
Yeah.
at least,
Yeah.
and
And stayed here.
stayed here.
Wow. And then subsequently, I think in 71, the Catholic Life Center was built, which was to house all the administrative and the chancery for the diocese.
All that was happening at
the same
that time.
A lot was happening.
But the fortunately, building the front building,
yeah. Yeah.
plus the courtyard,
Mhm.
plus the main auditorium and the kitchen
Right.
had just been completed.
Wow. Okay.
And so the
So you were
school
completed.
in 6 months got
Wow.
added, and we taught.
Ah.
By then, I guess there were 4. Yeah, there were 4 classes, I think.
Wow. Yeah.
And we taught them in various buildings,
Yeah.
offices and whatnot,
Uh-huh. Where you could find space.
where we
Yeah.
could find space.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then this was completed in 6 months.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
And we moved in.
Yeah.
But I remember sleeping on the floor of the main
The main building.
not the main building, but the auditorium here.
Yeah. Yeah.
on
the ballroom.
on the floor of the auditorium with the
Yeah. Yeah.
the boarding students.
Yeah.
Monsignor Berger and I we slept there for about 3 weeks, and then
Until they had their,
and we
their
could
rooms.
move in.
Oh
Yeah,
my
yeah.
gosh. Wow, we are running out of time. So we're going to continue this conversation because now that we've moved the prep school into the current location, what we
Right.
call the Catholic Life Center, and that time spent there, I know that there's so much more to learn about, your time as a pastor in parishes. And also, too, just to remember in light of Vatican II, your ministry as a priest, and then St. John Paul II, who was at the council, and his kind of notion on the 25-year anniversary of the council of that it's a compass for the church in the new millennium. So on our next show and the rest of the series, we'll talk about how your experience has experienced that Vatican II as being a compass for the church to guide us in this new phase of new evangelization and the church in the modern world, the emphasis and the importance of sacred liturgy, and how the church informs the culture and accompanies the culture to encounter Jesus Christ. So we have a lot more to talk about too, and I'm so grateful for your time, and I look forward to the next time that we're together that you can continue your story for us. So thank you for being here. Thank you also for being with us on Catholic Life. Until next time, may God bless you and grant you his peace.